This road is very important to a lot of survivors, as when you look out on this road, you always hope to see your parents coming to get you. But it's always a disappointment when they know that's not them.
I'm glad I was put where I was rather than here. I would hate to have been here as a little kid. And my heart goes out to these people who are adults now.
Because even the parents didn't know when their children were gone. They'd come and visit, and their children weren't there, they were already buried.
"6 years old, I was imprisoned here. I was imprisoned here, I was put here. And I did my time. This is where we slept. This is the dorm room. As children, you get out of bed, and the first thing you do is you make your bed. And we have to make our bed just properly, army style, no wrinkles or nothing, or else we'll get hit. I got hit, like everybody else that spoke the language here. We got beaten. It's hard to come back to a place where you're abused. Like, I remember one night laying here, and they never had anything on the windows. They just had them straight open like this. So we always had like moonlight, a little bit light coming in here. And then they'd turn off the lights and it'd get dark. And it'd be dark in here and a little bit of moonlight. And the boys would all be around giggling or trying to go to sleep and tell them to go to bed. But then when one boy would start off a cry, it'll make us all cry. It was a lonesome cry. And for that reason, that boy would get beaten up for making everybody else cry. Don't cry anymore. We don't want to cry like that anymore.
You have a way of life when you're growing up with your parents. You grew up traditionally. And we lost all that when we come here. We used to get lickings if we talked pseudo. When we first came, we got all our hair cut short. We were called pagans and all that. Told we're going to be nothing but jailbirds. But there's a lot of children that came here and never went home. I don't know what kind of a fever they had up in that time. Before the old school burnt down, there was a lot of children that were buried around the grounds here. But usually they just covered them and left them. Because even the parents didn't know when their children were gone. They'd come and visit and their children weren't there, they were already buried. I believe there's some all along up into the north in here, and there's some back on sort of on the east end of the school. And when they were digging a water line, there was one right on the west end of the school, or northwest end of the school, with boys playing.
Being strapped, being ears being pulled and being slapped, and especially with a ruler, yes.
James Desjardins' story isn't unique. He grew up at this residential school located on Muskowekwan First Nation. It's been closed for decades, but the trauma endured by many residential school survivors remain.
It was a Roman Catholic school when that happened. She said that she saw a nun hit her youngest brother, who was probably 6 years old, after he had to shave his head, and she is whipping him with a strap. And that was extremely traumatic because they had no control over what would happen to children when they were placed in care.
Hundreds gathered today for a special healing ceremony at the former site. Muskowekwan First Nation is one of several communities across Canada that has been holding events to stand in solidarity with Kamloops First Nations. That's where the remains of 215 children were recently discovered.
I want to pay tribute to all the mothers and the grandmothers, and to the great-grandmothers whose children never came home, whose children were taken from their arms, from their homes, from their families, from their communities.
But the Muscowequan Residential School has its own past. Years ago, the remains of 35 children were discovered after the land was surveyed. On Tuesday, moccasins were laid out for each child who never returned home. The community is hoping further research on the grounds will reveal more remains. This is something that has the backing of the Premier, who is calling for the federal government to examine all residential school sites in the province.
The only way we'll heal is when the truth is told in Turtle Island. Not only Indigenous people, non-Indigenous people alike need to know the truth, the history of this land.
And everyone agrees it's an emotional process that will take time and require everyone to participate in the work.
Yeah, right in that square is up over there. That's where I'm pretty sure where the old graveyards are. Got that creepy feeling, like you're being watched or whatever. And that's when I noticed the crosses were in there. Like, they're built kind of lower to the ground. So as soon as I got home there, I went and talked to my mushroom there, and he was telling me, yeah, that's a old graveyard up there.
My name is Alice Little Deer. I'm 78 years old. I spent about 8 years in residential school. I see him come around, Indian agent in a boat, with the principal, then collect some children from the reserve. Mm-hmm. Then he would come back again, come and take some more. My strongest memory there is when the little girl died beside me. She must have been about 6. I was scared why the parents were not there. That's what I was scared about. And I knew they wouldn't feel comfortable for not being there when their daughter is dying.
And do you know why they weren't there?
They were never notified. I got frightened when I was a little girl, when the principal used to beat up the other children, like boys. The boys got the most beating. They used to call it bench party, and it was usually done after supper. And that's where I got frightened, because I saw blood.
Were you angry at your parents that they made you go to school?
Sometimes I would think about them. I get mad for all giving me here, sending me over there where all the bad treatment is. And
Tell me how you felt when you saw your children go to that school.
well, I felt sad. My first 2 boys went, and then a couple of years after, the next 2 boys went, and so on, as they got older, yeah. I told them to be strong. I had always told them to be strong, to be able to take it like the other children.
So you sent 11 kids to residential school?
Mm-hmm.
How many of them do you think were strong through that?
None of them. None of them.
What about your children? How do you think it affected them, being in residential
Well,
school?
like I said, a little bit crazier than before they went to school. Their mind was a little bit more intact, staying at home with us. They knew how to hunt ducks, and they knew how to fish, and they knew how to snare rabbits and pick blueberries. Today you don't see that.
And you think that's the school?
Yeah. Everything destroyed in our world. Mm-hmm. We didn't bother white people. White people bothered me.
I'd like to encourage all residential school survivors, tell your story. The stories are important. As once we lose the story, it's gone and it's forgotten. Coming back here, in a way, it kind of heals me. It lifts my spirit up, knowing I'm here and talking about it. We can all help each other as survivors and taking care of each other, preserving things like this, and not to forget is the most important thing. Not to forget what happened here, a genocide that happened here.
least we know now what happened to the students and that did not return to school, the ones who did not return home. We never talk about it. We never talk about it, no. Just kept silent. Because we were afraid. We were afraid if we talk about it, if we went back to school, then we would be punished for it.
Being in this place really made me want to make sure my kids are never in here. Not a good place to grow up. Lost culture, lost our language. It was scary. It was scary coming here for the first time, being torn away from your family. Okay, this main floor was basically where the classrooms were. Nothing has really changed in this place, maybe some paint, but this is how it was back in the 60s. It's an old building right now, but it does have its ghosts. There are things in here that nobody can explain. There's a lot of hurt that happened here. So, to me, there's still something bad about this place. When I first came here, there was priests, nuns, brothers, and then we started getting regular people in here. It was good to see the priests go and the nuns, because they were tough. There was harsh discipline here, kneeling on peas, standing in a corner, standing straight for hours. Yeah, discipline was hard. Life was hard in this place.